Hi, I'm Karen Weingard and I'm coming to you from Club Scrap. Today's project is the book in a book. Are you ready to get started? Let's take a tour of this cute little book in a book, and it'll all become clear very shortly. This outside cover looks just like a book on a shelf, but when you open it, it has a nook that in turn holds another book. And this is all constructed out of cardstock. It's really cool because there's no book board, there's no mat board, and it's very sturdy, and it's all very magical how this comes together. Your inside book is an accordion book then that has the extra bonus excitement of pop-out pages. We're gonna do all of the scoring of the cardstock first, so grab your score pal or other scoring tool for this part. Now in class, when I taught the workshop, I had people leave all of their supplies in their bag because your kit comes in a little bag. So if you leave all the pieces in your bag, nothing will get misplaced on your work surface. If you're anything like me, mine's always a mess. So in your package, the first piece you'll grab is the largest piece of dark brown. This is our outside cover of the book. Place that in your score pal, and it should be exactly 12 inches wide. We're going to score at 5.5 and 6.5. And if your score pal looks like mine, just make sure that you're double checking those measurements before you actually do the scoring. So 5.5 and 6.5. Set that piece aside. Next, locate the 10 by 12 blue. Again, this should fit across your score pal because it's 12 inches wide. At this point, we're going to score at 3.5 and 10.5. Now, when you fold on a score line, it's really important that the bump always go to the inside. So if we're accordion folding something, it's real important that every other fold have that bump to the inside. So take your cardstock, and without rotating it left or right, we're just gonna flip it over top to bottom, and now we're gonna score at 7. So you can see my bump score lines are at 3.5 and 10.5, and I now have a valley score at 7 inches. Set that aside. Your next largest blue piece should be 5 by 10.5. Place this horizontally in your score pal and score at 3.5 inches. Then again, because we're going to be accordion folding, top to bottom, just flip that piece. So now the bump is at the 3.5 and then score at 7. And we'll set that aside. You can see we're getting all of our scoring out of the way right away at the beginning. Next, you should have 2 ivory pieces that measure 9 inches by 12 inches. Now it's very important that we score this vertically. So you want to place it into your score pal so that it is the 9 inches wide. And there'll be a reason, this will all become clear later, but place it vertically into your trimmer or into the score pal. And our first score is at 1.5. And make sure you're scoring all the way to the bottom. Then 3, 4.5, 6, and 7.5. Okay, much like the first pieces, we again need those score lines, the bump to be on the inside of the fold every other. So again, top to bottom, flipping this over, and I can double check my work by making sure all the bumps are at the measurements I just scored. So 1.5, 3, and so on, okay? Make sure everything's tucked up into the left corner, and now we're gonna score at 3/4. So 3/4 of an inch, 2.25, 3 3/4, 5 1/4, 6 3/4, and 8 1/4. So you can see now we have a score line every 3/4 of an inch as we move from left to right, and every other has the bump on the inside and a valley score on the opposite. Okay, go ahead and repeat that with your second ivory piece. Next in your kit you have 5 blue pieces that are all the same width, but 2 of them are shorter. We're going to be working with the 2 that are shorter. This measures 5 inches by 6 inches, so set those other pieces aside. These we're going to score in half horizontally, so it should read at 6 on your scoreboard. So scoring those at 3. So each 5 by 6 will be scored at 3 inches. Finally, we have this long, narrow blue piece, and this is the belly band of our inner accordion folded book. So here we're going to score horizontally at 3 1/2, 4 1/4, 7 3/4, and 8 1/2. And at this point, you're all done with your score pal, so you can go ahead and set that aside. The next tool you'll need is your paper trimmer. And Trisha designed this so that we did all of our scoring in the beginning. She's all about efficiency, so we scored everything. Now we need to create those or turn those scored pieces into multiple pieces. So we're going to do some trimming. The first piece you want to trim is, remember that first piece we did, it's 10 by 12, so you just double check that measurement. So 10 by 12 piece of blue that's scored. And it's very important you place this vertically into your trimmer. So in other words, we're cutting across or perpendicular to the score lines. And we're just going to cut this at 5 inches. Next are those ivory spine pieces. If you recall, these are scored vertically, so we're going to cut horizontally. Again, we want to be cutting perpendicular to the score lines. This cut is going to be at 6 3/4. So we are not cutting 2 equal pieces. We're cutting at 6 3/4. And repeat that with the second piece of ivory. So 6 3/4. And that's it for your paper trimmer, so you can tuck that away as well. The next step in the project is to work on the inside pop-up pages. If you'll recall, we have those cool 3D pages. So locate the 2 pieces of 5 by 6 blue with your score line at 3 inches. Folding with the bump to the inside of the project, you're going to fold each of those along the 3-inch score line and really burnish those creases. I put the bump to the inside, and before I actually crease anything or burnish anything, I make sure those top edges line up. I don't 100% trust myself to get that score straight, so it's always good to double check. At this point, if you refer to your instructions, there are some diagrams on page 2 of your PDF that you'll probably want to have handy for this portion. I'm going to flip this around so my folded edge is going the same direction as your project. So you should have your folded edge facing your belly. And we're going to draw a pencil guideline using our grid ruler. Draw a pencil guideline at 3/4 of an inch. Then we're going to slide it up to 1 1/4 inches on your grid ruler and draw a second pencil guideline. And you'll repeat that for the second blue piece. So you can see now I have 2 pencil guidelines, and here's my folded edge. So referring to the diagram at the top of the page, we're going to do some angled cuts to create the pop-out pieces. So here I have my folded edge facing my belly, and I'm going to take a scissors and I'm going to make an angled cut from the outside to the inside, and I'm going to stop at that first pencil guideline. You can see I'm anywhere from 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch from my edge here. Now I want to make a cut that's a mirror image of this cut on the opposite edge. So again, about 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch from my edge, I'm cutting from the fold to that first pencil guideline. Now I'm going to open the project up, and you can see here that I've created this little flap. So with the book open, you're going to reverse that fold and really crease and burnish those edges. That'll really help throughout this process. So you can see you have something that looks a little bit like this. Now I have one folded edge on my outside corners, and you can see if you take a look, you've got two folded edges on the inside of the project here. The next step is to take and make another set of angled cuts, this time about 1/2 inch or 3/4 of an inch from your first cut, and we're stopping at that second pencil guideline. Make a mirror cut, a mirror image cut of the second, or on the other side, and you'll see I'm only cutting through that top fold, and I'm going to fold this up and out of the way. You can see because it's cardstock, we want to really burnish that to strengthen that fold. Now you'll see I still have the folded edge on the inside, or the lower fold. This time I'm making another set of angled cuts, but this time it's only about 3/4 of an inch wide. So again, 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch from my other cuts. This time the tab is very small. And I'll reverse this fold around the back and really burnish. So you can see it looks a little something like that. All right, return both of those folds to home. Open up the project, and you can see I have two more tabs in here. So I've got my main tab, I'm not touching that, but then I'm just gonna use my thumbs or my fingers to pop in those other two tabs. So now I have 3 sets of stairs, if you will. Close that all up and burnish on all those folds. So now you can see we've created this really cool pop-up. You're gonna repeat those same steps with your second 5x6 piece. Once you've finished your inside pop-up pages, the next step is to create the inside of the book structure. So these are the accordion folded pieces that create the nook that the inner book goes into. So I like to start with my narrower pieces. You'll remember we cut our ivory at 6 3/4. So you should have 2 larger pieces and 2 smaller pieces. So I'm just going to start with one of my smaller pieces, because accordion folding can be either very zen-like or very frustrating. So I'm hoping to make it very zen-like for you. So if you put your project in front of you so that your first fold is a bump, because remember we always want to be folding the bump to the inside of the project, you'll just go ahead and make your first fold. And each time you fold, you really want to crease those score lines, okay? Then you'll flip your project, just like we did when we were making paper fans when we were younger. You'll do your second fold and really burnish. Now, as you move along, I like to double check that my stack is very straight. That's going to be really important when we're creating that framework. So just keep accordion folding as you go, making adjustments as needed. You want to make sure those edges are straight and that your stack is straight. And then just keep accordion folding until you get to the end. If you start to get a little crooked, like you can see I'm doing here, that's a good time to stop and make adjustments as necessary. Just negotiate your piece a little bit and rescore or re-burnish that fold. If you catch those as you go along, your life will be a lot easier. So you can see by the time I get all my folding done, you want to just kind of squeeze that stack and make sure that it's as straight as possible. And this is the point where you can make little adjustments with your bone folding tool if you need to. Now you'll go ahead and repeat those same steps, accordion folding both of the shorter pieces, moving on to the 2 longer pieces. Once you have all of your ivory pieces folded, it's time to build the framework for our nook. At this point, grab some binder clips if you have them. And with the outside folds being mountain folds, in other words, our flaps are facing each other, you're going to slide the one short piece and one long piece. You're going to slide those ivory pieces together in the corner so that they interlock. This is where the magic happens. It's very cool. Okay, once you've got those pieces snug in there interlocking, use your binder clip to fasten. Then take your second long accordion folded piece and do the same thing. Takes a little practice, takes a little getting used to, but once you feel it slide in, it kind of just happens. Just make sure it's in there nice and snug. And that's where that binder clip comes in really handy. Again, just double checking that all of my flaps are opening towards the inside of the project. If you subscribe to the entire Retreat in a Box, your binder clips were included for you. So once you get all 4 edges into place, it's time to tack down those pieces. So I've got my binder clips holding this end so it doesn't pop apart on me. And we just want to add a little bit of adhesive where the 2 flaps overlap each other. So I'm only putting adhesive in this little corner to glue that into place. Again, just make sure it stays nice and tight. Once you've got those 2 adhered, keeping those binder clips in place, just flip the project over and glue those flaps as well. So you can see I've got my bottom of my frame all glued down, and then repeat with the remaining corners. So in all, you're gluing 8 flaps, front and back. Now you can see that I have all the flaps glued down. This creates kind of a 3D nook for the inside of our book. So locate your brown outside cover, and at the beginning we scored the 1-inch spine piece, so just go ahead and fold on those score lines, bump to the center, and then we'll open it in front of us just like an open book. At this point, we're going to adhere that framework to the inside right cover of the book. So add adhesive, I like my tape runner, or you can use bookbinding glue, to all 4 edges of the frame, and then you'll place it into the right inside cover so that you're not crossing that spine fold, or that crease we made for the spine, but just making sure it's centered in that space. Now you can see that we have the framework inside, and it's time to decorate the outside of the book. In your bag of tricks, you should have those 3 blue panels, and these will each adhere to the front outside cover, front inside cover, and back outside cover. And I love this ATG gun for the adhesive. It's very quick and it sticks nice and well for a very long time, and I love that. It's easy to use. And I happen to know where you can pick one up in our online store. So I'm just nesting these mats on the front, outside and inside covers, and that back cover. Then you should have a tan and a blue that also nest perfectly in together with that 1/8 inch border. And we can go ahead and adhere these together. And this will be the outside front cover of your book. And you saw as we were doing this scoring process for all these scores how easy that score pal was to use. That also is something that's available. That is the structure of the outside of our book. Now it's time to work on the inside booklet. You should have 2 longer blue pieces that we scored, and they're scored exactly the same, and then 1 piece that only has 2 score lines, but it's not quite as long as the others. With our same technique we've been using, we're going to fold the bump to the inside and accordion fold each of these pieces. Again, just making sure all of our corners align, or edges align as we accordion fold before really burnishing those folds. And you can see on the longer pieces you end up with this little tab, and I promise there's a reason for those. Now it's time to build one long accordion out of these 3 pieces of blue cardstock. So starting with your project in front of you so that the flap makes a valley fold, we'll take the second piece with the tab and we're going to add adhesive right here on the flap. You need to be close to the fold, so I'm going to run two long strips of adhesive, or if you're using the bookbinding glue, you would just put glue just on the flap. So with the valley fold facing up, I will then tuck this first outside flap into the fold, and then that will create the accordion. Now you can see my tab is facing like a mountain fold, so just flip the whole thing over and repeat the same steps. So with the flap being in a valley fold, add some adhesive, and finally the piece with no tabs. Make sure you're a mountain fold there and tuck it into place. And you can see if you did everything right, you should have one long continuous accordion folded piece. All right, now you want to leave your accordion folded piece in front of you. Basically, we know that a book always opens out and to the left, right? So you want to place the accordion book in front of you. So I have this backwards for me, frontwards for you, so that our first fold opens out and to the left. So you can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4 valley folds. Now is the time to add our pop-out pieces. So you want to add your pop-outs to valley number 2, and just finish folding that one, and valley number 4. Now you can see that if I lay this in the valley, the edges don't reach the mountain folds. There's a trick for that, so we will go through that next. Close up one of your pop-up pages, and this again was great with the ATG because I just run a stripe of adhesive right there. I'm only going to do it on one side. Take that piece and align the edge of the cardstock with the edge of the mountain fold. Okay. Next, we want to close this up and we'll add another stripe of adhesive. But this time we want to kind of stretch it over so that this edge of the cardstock meets the second, or in this case, yeah, second mountain fold. So you'll see that it actually creates this gap, and that's what we want for the pop-out. So repeat that with the second pop-up page. Just add that bead of adhesive. Align the edge of the cardstock with the edge of the mountain fold. Close it up, add the second line of adhesive. If you're having trouble with that stretching motion, you can also just close up the pop-out and close that next mountain fold on top of it. So either technique will work. But the goal is to have those pop-out pages, and you will have a little bit of that gap on the inside. And if you close it all up, that is the inner accordion folded booklet. The next step is to create the belly band, which is your long narrow strip. And it's probably drilled into your head by now that we always fold the bump to the inside. So just fold on each of those score lines and burnish with the bone folding tool. And you can see if you put this all together, the two flaps will completely overlap to create that belly band. So just add adhesive to one of the flaps and wrap that around to assemble that rectangle. And you can see, because your accordion book is pretty fluffy right now, that's why we want that belly band. You can see that slips right on there. Now we do have some elements in your kit too, some photo mats and mats for the front of your book to decorate the accordion book. You'll have 4 ivory mats, and then you should have a tan or craft colored mat that nests perfectly onto the brown. This is actually going to go on the outside front cover of our mini accordion. So you can find the cover again. Again, it should open out to the left, and that'll nest right onto there. The ivory mats can go and be distributed throughout the inside pages of your book wherever you don't have a pop-out page. So I've got my front cover on. I'm gonna grab the ivory mats, and you can see on the inside, I have this piece where we did the gluing of the flap. I for sure wanna put an ivory mat over top of that just to kind of cover that up. And then you can evenly distribute the rest of the mats wherever you like on the inside of the book. And that is the accordion assembly. Now you can see the belly band here. In my example, I have this little ivory circle that's included in your kit. So I found it easier to adhere the ivory circle once the belly band was on my book. So just add adhesive to the center of the circle, and having the belly band on the book makes it easier for me to find placement for that. All right, so to assemble the book, you'll just tuck that little accordion folded book down inside. So now let's talk about some fun finishing touches for your project. Included in your kit are some foil fancies, a sheet of cut-aparts, and some sandpaper. And you may wonder what some of that is for, but we'll go over that right now. I took some washi tape, and you can see on my example, just to frame the outside of that ivory frame. It just dresses it up a little bit. So grab your washi tape from your stash. And here I'm using the one from our Dahlia kit. And I'm just gonna run the washi tape along the inside edge of my frame. And I'm gonna leave a little bit of excess on the outside edges. So I'm just gonna do that on all four sides. And this just really adds a nice little touch. I suppose you could tear it too, because washi tape tears real easy. So even if you do tear it, I'm now going to show you a trick that you can do with a craft knife and your ruler to miter these corners so they look really nice. So take your grid ruler and your craft knife, and you're just going to line the ruler with the inside and the outside corner so you have a perfect 45-degree angle. And just gently but firmly press your craft knife along that edge, and then when you pull away the two flaps, that will result in a nice mitered edge. And you can go ahead and repeat that with the remaining three corners. So you can see that little border adds just a nice touch to the inside. Now there are other decorative elements included in your kit, and that would be these printed cut-aparts. They are specially sized to fit into the different areas of your book. And you can see here there's registration lines. You just use your paper trimmer and use those registration guidelines to trim these all apart. We've also included some foil fancies in your kit, and the foil fancies can be used as is. They have a beautiful metallic gold finish, so you can use them as is. If you got the Retreat in a Box, the whole package, we actually included some sandpaper as part of your kit. If you just purchase this kit separately, you'll just grab some fine grit sandpaper from your husband's tool stash. But you can see they're either the gold shiny, or if you lightly sand, and you can cut these apart, but for demo purposes, I'm just gonna do it right here. Start with a little bit of sanding. You can always add more, but you can see by sanding, you're actually revealing some of that silver underlay for more of a distressed look. So if we take a look at the sample book, you can see the way I've used all these cut-aparts and the foil fancies. So the cut-apart with the clock on it fits perfectly nested into the front cover nesting panels that we have on there. I added a little quote and the big balloon, their hot air balloon foil fancy, which is my absolute favorite. I also took some of those elements and added them to the inside front cover. So you can see I've added these here. And that circle, that ivory circle, just happens to work perfectly with the pocket watch foil fancy. Fits right on there. And you can see I added a little bit of washi tape to my belly band as well. One of the cut-aparts fits down right into that little niche that is for your mini book. And you can see with the pocket watch and the tape and all that, I didn't really need to add anything to the front cover of my inside book. But then you can see I've added photos. And what's really super fun is the pop-outs. You can add all those little smaller elements from your foil fancies to the individual stair steps inside your pop-out pages, and that really comes out fun and very 3D. As you're adding your foil fancies to those inside pop-outs, I like to test fit them first, and then again, you just want to add adhesive only to where it's going to fit onto that stair step so that the book can still open and close freely. Another thing to keep in mind is when you're test fitting those foil fancies on your stair steps, you want to close the book before you're adding any adhesive, because you can see some of those foil fancies are a little large and you wouldn't want them to extend past the edge of the book because then it wouldn't fit in the nook. So I mentioned that you received the steampunk version of the foil fancies in your kit. We have several other versions available. We have the Floral Fantasy, which has a lot of musical notes and pretty flowers. We have the Mystic Garden, which features foliage, flowers, and butterflies. And for folks like Kay, who absolutely love the butterflies, we have a kit that is strictly butterflies in those foil fancies. Now what I wanted to show you next is how easy it is to create different variations of this project. As you saw, there's no book board, there's no mat board, there's nothing complicated about this. It's strictly trimming your pieces of cardstock to the right size and the way you assemble them. For this example, I used the Cruel and Unusual papers along with some of the foil fancies. And you can see a little bit of washi tape from my stash, some print on the inside, and then all the different elements. Because this one had a lot of birds in it, I used photos that my dad takes on his nature walks of birds on the inside. And don't forget, there's a whole backside to this project. So you can really fit a lot of photos and a memorabilia in these different, on these different pages. This one I did with Creative License. You may say, what do butterflies have to do with Creative License? But I just loved the age look of that rust print from Creative License with the butterflies. And again, I just decorated the inside with a few cut aparts from the collection and washi tape from my stash. And you can see those butterfly cut aparts. Oops, those butterfly cut aparts really look great. Again, just double checking that when you close that up, that your foil fancies don't go past the edge of your pages. And this final one, when I was making all my prototypes for teaching this class at the beginning, I actually had my daughter help me make some of the variations. So this is the one she made, and this is the foil fancy, I believe it was called Floral Fantasy. So it has the music notes and some flowers. So the photos we chose inside of this booklet, let me get it right and go in the right direction, has beautiful flowers, flower photos again by my dad. He takes tons and tons of pictures. So you can see there's a lot of potential with this project. So I encourage you to take those instructions and make variations of your very own using those other foil fancies. I'm Karen Weingard, and I hope you enjoyed this project. Thank you for joining me for the book with a nook, and if you look, another little book. Thanks so much. I hope you'll join us again soon.